All right. Good morning again.
Good morning.
Thank you. So we are in the second week of a series I've titled Serve, then the greater sign, Serve. I wanted to say, was anybody in main service this morning? Yes? Did you see the greater sign in the Colossians series that starts next week? I feel like they ripped that from me, which I was offended. But no one asked me, which again, offended. So, but serve greater than serve. And as a church, we've developed this threefold model of movement. We are moving up in worship to God. We are moving in toward each other in discipleship, and we move out in service, both inside and outside the church. That's our goal. So this series, Serve Greater Than Serve, is focused, obviously, completely on the out portion of that we move model. Because as a church and as a youth group, I feel that we do really well at moving up, worshiping Sunday morning, moving in toward each other in discipleship, community, through life groups, through Light at Night, all those things coming together. But I feel that there needs to be kind of a renewed focus or a revisiting of out, that ways that we can serve. So last week, for those of you who were here, we talked about the story of Mary and Martha. And Martha is busy, she's distracted, she's working to serve everyone, but she doesn't take time to rest and sit at Jesus' feet. So I wanted to start with that story to show that although serving is important, and it's the goal of this series, it's the point of this series, that we have to start with sitting at Jesus' feet. It's necessary. Jesus says Mary has chosen the necessary thing. It's necessary to be filled with Jesus first and foremost. So, started there. Next week we will talk about the importance of serving in the local church and specifically get at some ways that we can serve at First Alliance. I'll talk about that a little bit. And then the last week, Jonathan, who is one of our small group leaders, he will speak on serving in the community. But today, I want to look at serving our family. So we're going to ask three questions, essentially. Why is it important to serve our family? What are the reasons that we serve our family? And then have some practical applications. How can we serve our family? But what I want to start off, everyone should have a piece of paper and a crayon or a pen or something. And what I want you to do is take that pen and paper, writing utensil and paper, and answer this question. Who is your family? Who is your family? Write down specific names, not just, I guess you could write mom, dad, but write some specific names of who you consider your family. Could be anyone. It's going to be different for everyone, but who do you consider your family? I'll give you 1 minute.
Dude.
You want
No, like
Boom.
All right, how are we doing? Are we close?
No.
No?
Well,
Do you have it in your mind then? Okay, very good. So, if nothing else, I want you to have this in your mind because throughout this morning, this message, I want you to think about those specific people as we talk about this. Why is it important to serve those people that are on your paper? What are some reasons for serving them? How can you serve them. I want you to put it in that context. So for me personally, the family that I interact with on a daily basis are my wife Hope and my sons Ezra and Emmett. So I would put them kind of in the daily life of Dan McPherson. Then I might have some family that I include that I see semi-regularly. That would be my parents. That would be my sister and brother, Katie and Andrew. That would be my in-laws, Hope's parents, sister, brother-in-laws, Hope's sister and sisters, and then one sister's husband. So these are people that I kind of see semi-regularly that I might include in my family. And so as we talk, think about the ways that you can serve whoever. Ways I can serve Hope. Reasons that I serve Hope. How I can serve Hope. And I don't know about you, but as I was preparing for today, as I was thinking about ways I can serve, reasons I can serve, why I serve, it almost begins to have a negative connotation in my mind. Of that, I know it's not true, but I almost synonymize it with slave almost. Like I hear, serve me, Dan, and that puts a bad taste in my mouth, just a little bit. But it doesn't have to, and it really shouldn't, because as Christians, as little Jesuses, we are called to serve. So it should be something that we are constantly working at. We're continuously sharpening, finding ways to get better, and that includes serving our family, those people on our sheet of paper, because ultimately we're serving God through serving our family. Through our service to others, we are ultimately honoring God. So the first question is this: why is it important to serve your family? Why is it important to serve your family? So in Exodus 20, God gives Moses 10 commandments. Do you remember these?
Yes, sir.
What are they, Micah?
Do not worship other gods.
Yes, very good. No other gods before me.
And
Somebody help him out.
steal.
Don't steal. No adultery. What else? Lie. Honor mother, father.
Lord's name in vain.
Lord's name in vain.
Covet. Do not covet.
Murder. Covet.
False witness.
Idols. What's the other one?
Don't covet.
Keep the Sabbath day holy. The one that we love to break.
Sorry.
We love to break keeping the Sabbath day holy. We won't murder, but we'll work right through the entire week. Okay, so smack dab in the middle of these 10 commandments is number 5. Honor your father and mother. So first, it's important serving your family simply because God says it is. We're called to serve, to obey our parents, to love our family well, to respect and honor them. Over and over throughout Scripture, God talks about the importance of serving. And specifically, we see Jesus serve his close family, his close friends, and we're called to that as well. Simply because God says it is, it's important. It's also important because, again, it's not just about our family. We're serving the Lord, serving God through serving our family. Colossians 3:23-24 says, "Whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward." You are serving the Lord Christ. Whatever you do, serve your family because you're serving the Lord. Serving our family is bigger than just our family. We honor them and we honor the Lord. It's also important because serving is loving. What are the 2 commandments God gave? Do you remember? Love the Lord your God with all your heart. And the second is like it? Love your neighbor as yourself. Very good. So we love through serving. 1 Corinthians 13, classic love chapter. Love is patient, love is kind. So what if we switch the word love with the word servant? A servant is patient and kind. A servant does not envy or boast. They're not arrogant or rude. They don't insist on their own way. They're not irritable or resentful. They don't rejoice at wrongdoing, but they rejoice with the truth. A servant bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. We're called to love one another. It's synonymous with serving. Peter writes in one of his books, above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. Serving is loving. And then it's important because humility and unity are essential for all families. You might have experienced this week, maybe even this morning, some disunity between your family, and yet unity is important. We live in this culture where competition is the norm. We are comparing, we're competing to be the best, and that includes in our families. When you say, that wasn't fair, or I never got to do that, or they never get in trouble. I was talking with someone, a father, this week, who was talking about their students and how they feel like the youngest child gets away with everything. There is this sense of competition. And Paul writes in Philippians, complete my joy by being of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. Do nothing from rivalry or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to your interests, but also to the... What did I say that made you all start talking?
Siblings.
The youngest child. That's really rare for all of you to start chattering. I wondered what I said. Yeah.
That's fine.
Well, I was the oldest child, and my sister thought I got away with murder. So mainly because I was innocent and never sinned, which is pretty much the reason. So, all right, bring it back in. Bring it back in. So in Philippians, Paul is talking, and he says, "Do all things without grumbling or questioning, that you may be blameless and innocent, children of God, without blemish, in the midst of a crooked and twisted generation." And get this, among whom you shine as lights in the world. Paul says, simply by showing humility, simply by not complaining, you are standing out from the world. Just by not complaining, by having unity. When we're in the mindset of serving our family rather than competing with them, the relationship changes completely. Not only are we unified within our family, but now we are serving them with joy, not with grumbling, not with questioning, not with competing or complaining. So serving is important because God says it is. Because it's more than just our family, because it's loving, and humility and unity are essential. That's why it's important. So what are some reasons for serving our family? I'm sure there are more reasons that I've not thought of or will mention here, but I've come up with 5 reasons for serving our family. Some can be very good with positive motives, others can be very bad with negative motives. So one of those bad reasons, a negative, wrong motive, is manipulation. You're serving, you're doing something because you want to get something else out of it. It's a scratch my back, I'll scratch yours type mentality. For example, I will clean my room if you drive me to my friend's house. Or I will wash the dishes if I can spend the night at that person's house, etc. You may be serving on the outside, but really you're in it for yourself. You could kind of care less about the serving aspect. It's more of a means to an end for you. That's one reason, manipulation. Another is the I'll do it, but I won't like it reason. So you're serving, but it's with a bad attitude. You don't have the right mindset. You're spiteful, you're angry, you're bitter. An example would be cleaning your room, but stomping around, making it clear that you're not a fan of what you're doing. Or washing dishes, but complaining the entire time. You're serving on the outside, but inside you're completely negative. That's the second reason. The third reason is obligation. This might be an older sibling. A classic example is I'm the oldest sibling who has a driver's license, so it's my obligation that I drive my youngest sibling around. Do you know this, juniors, seniors? Yes? So I am the older, or I have something that I'm just obliged to do because I'm the family member. I guess this is my role. So you've got this sense of obligation. You're serving, but it's mostly just because it's what you have to do. The fourth is what I would call contractual. So it's some sort of service that involves an agreement between two parties. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, this was something that I had when I was in middle and high school. My parents and I had a contract of sorts. So we did chores, and then we got a weekly allowance. So the chore had some sort of money number attached to it. So if we made our bed every day, we got a certain amount of money. If we cleaned one room that was of our choosing, then we got a certain amount of money. So it ended up totaling our weekly allowance. But if we didn't do a chore for that day or that week, then we lost that amount of money. It was this contract, and really it worked out really nicely for both my parents. They had a clean house, and for me, I swallowed my spit. For me, because I got some money out of it. So there's this contract. It's serving, but there's also kind of you're in it for yourself. So an unhealthy version would be manipulation. Maybe the healthy version would be some sort of contract. And then the last reason is serving simply out of joy. This is like finding things to do that you're not asked to do. Being thoughtful for your family member. There's kind of this underlying joy. Even when you're asked to do something, you have this positivity about it. That's the last reason. So as you look at those reasons, which one do you resort to the most often? Look at those reasons and decide during a typical week, are you serving through manipulation, with a bad attitude, out of obligation or contract, or with joy? This can be a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer necessarily, but think about yourself. What is the reason that you serve the most? We know why serving is important, some reasons that we serve our family, but the final question gets at some application. How can I serve my family? And there are lots of ways to serve your family, but I've just compiled a little list here for you. The first is obvious. Chores, doing things around the house, looking for ways to serve, cleaning, vacuuming, doing laundry, taking out the trash, making your bed, feeding, walking the dog, etc. Simple, classic way to serve, what we all think of when we hear the word serve. Whether you're asked to do those things or not, it's a great way to serve your family well, to do those things, and as always, with a positive, joyful attitude. That's the goal. The second is communication. And I'm speaking to myself. I was very convicted about not serving my wife well through several of these this week. But the second is communication. One of the best ways that you can serve your family, especially your parents, is to communicate with them. When they ask you a question, answer. When they ask how your day was, expound on the good or fine that you give. Because you do your family a disservice, actually, by not communicating. Remember, serving brings unity to your family. But even if you don't feel it, your parents feel disunity when you're not communicating. So talk about it. If something is going badly, talk about that. If something went really well during your day, talk about that. I know dialoguing with your family may not come easily. You might not want to do it, but it's a beautiful, simple way to serve your family well, to communicate. The third is through taking leadership. I see this especially with you older siblings, being an example to your younger brother or sister, but for anyone, show your family what it means to follow Christ well. Show what it means to serve well. Show what it means to be respectful, be loving, to help out around the house. Lead by example. Lead by starting conversations. Not only about benign, is that a word? Yeah, benign things, but also about God. Start conversations. Don't wait for your parents to initiate meaningful discussion. It's probably that your parent is getting very tired of having to start conversations. Lead well by starting those. To show that you're a humble leader, that you want unity. Take leadership. The fourth way to serve your family is to be honest. Because remember, serving is loving, right? And love does not delight in wrong, but rejoices in the truth. I can speak from experience. Keeping the truth from my family is not a good thing. It drives a wedge between me and them. It creates this disunity, this angst. And I get it. You're going to have stuff happen in your life that you just want to keep hidden. I understand that. It's difficult, it's awkward when you've done something wrong or something has happened that you don't want to talk about. But being honest is a great way to serve your family. Because trust is built on that. And unity is trust. That's what serving should accomplish. Be honest. The fifth is to share your thoughts and opinions. As I'm sure you're aware, you have thoughts and opinions that are different than your family members, yes? When you have a conversation, your parents say something, your sibling says something that either you don't agree with or you think something different. So when you're communicating and when you're being honest, share those things. When you're talking about God or the Bible, share your thoughts. Don't let your parents or siblings just drive that conversation. When you're talking about a specific issue or a topic, especially when it's something that you're passionate about, share those thoughts, share those opinions. Of course, keep in mind, love is patient and kind, so share your opinions in a loving and kind way. But serving comes from humility, not from competition or comparison. So you've got these thoughts and opinions. Share those. They're valuable, whether you think so or not. Your opinion matters. And last, share your talents. Again, you have different skills, talents, abilities than your family because God made you uniquely. Everyone has their own different gifts. And I don't know what that looks like for you, but when you think about your gifts, your talents, your skills, just ask yourself, how could this benefit my family? I think for me, when I was growing up, and even still now, Hope would probably attest to this, sometimes I use my gifts and my skills for other people and not just for my family. I kind of find ways to appease, to impress, to do things for other people, but at home, I don't use those well. How could my love for sports serve my family? How could my love for school, studying, serve my family? How could my love for books and learning serve my family? How could my love for art and music serve my family? Ask those questions to yourself. Brainstorm ways that you can serve your family through your talents, abilities. Ask God those questions. Serving our families is important, but I think often it's the hardest people group to serve. They're the ones that get on our nerves quickest, that know how to push our buttons the most, the ones that we have to live with after we have shared our thoughts and opinions and been honest with. But they're also the ones that God gave you, whether you like it or not. You get to choose your friends, but you are given your family, and God wants that unity with your family. It can be a blessing. But also remember, ultimately, we want to become more like Jesus. We are little Christs. And Jesus came to serve, not to be served.